It's been on my mind a lot. Level 6-7 vault.
A lot of people's mind.
Sure has. Yeah, I feel like it's definitely a step in the right direction as opposed to, what was happening before. And, it may not be the most crystal clear, simple thing to understand from coaches or parents or even judges sometimes, but I think the purpose of what's happening outweighs any of that. And I think that's like probably the most important thing for people to understand is safety, the safety and progression of it.
Yes.
How has it gone for you coaching it?
I think it's good because for coaching, we're spending more time doing the drills and the leading up to it, in the lower levels even. And now too, the kids can kind of see, well, this is what we're going to compete. So they can see the benefit of the drill instead of just like, well, or why aren't we doing handsprings or concentrating on front handsprings? It's like, well, we're going to be flipping eventually. So this is the better direction to go.
Yeah, definitely. I just remember the last season judging before this change happened, and even being at level 8 state and how still so new it was for those kids to be flipping under pressure. And I think that's the big thing is the flipping under pressure. Like they go so many years competing that front handspring that they can do in their sleep. And yeah, they're working Yurchenko drills in the gym, and that's wonderful. But there's something to be said about doing new skills under pressure, and the fact that they're able to compete this drill now is just takes that shock away from that first meet where they're like, okay, I've been running down the runway, jumping on my feet to my hands and back to my feet again for 7 years, and now I'm going to run, hurdle, round off onto the board, back handspring onto the table, then flip off my hands. I mean, that is like the biggest jump you can think of for difficulty. So to have that middle ground where they can get used to doing basically, 2/3 of that vault under pressure is it's going to be so great in the long run, and those kids are going to benefit definitely. So I'm glad it happened. Yeah, but the judging part of it, is it may be a little tricky. Those are my kids screaming back there. Sorry, it's quarantine. The judging part of it, how's that been for you? Kind of figuring that out, and what have you been seeing?
Mm-hmm. I haven't judged it a lot. I know I've heard a lot, and even just like from our coaches, it's inconsistent. But the thing that we try to remind them is the ranking correct? And ultimately, too, we're trying to see, could this vault flip? And those should be the ones that should be scoring the highest, the ones that have the height off the table, creating that rotation. If it doesn't look like it could successfully do a flip, it shouldn't be scoring the highest, is what we're really focusing on. So I know there's some inconsistencies, but this is new to judges too. It's not just new to the coaches or the athletes. It's also new for judges to be judging a drill.
Yeah, exactly. And I can imagine if you didn't come from a coaching background, and, there are judges who did not, and they're phenomenal because they know exactly what to look for and they know what that final product's supposed to look like. But I can imagine that would be a little bit of a difficulty as well to judge aptitude for something and not necessarily the final product. But you're right. Yeah, the vault that could flip safely and great should be the one that wins, not necessarily the prettiest one. And that's what's hard, I think, from the audience as well. How are these numbers making sense? So yeah, I think when it comes down to it, just the power in the rotation is obviously huge. I think people are, again, when I say people, I mean just from the stands trying to figure it out, are looking at these kids over rotating and actually falling and going, "Oh, that was bad." And it's like, no, that's what we want to see. So, from a judging standpoint, we're looking for them to over rotate. So if they're doing a drill for Yurchenko or a drill for a Suk, you shouldn't be able to stick it. If you stick it, it's not going to be a safe flipping vault. So we want to see them, pass through with a straight body. We want to see them touch their feet on the mat, but they should keep going in the direction that they were going off the table. And really the only landing deduction would be if you miss your feet completely, because if that's happening, they just need to put the mats higher. Or if they fall towards the table. So that would be like for a front handspring if they fall backwards towards the table, or for a Yurchenko or Suk if they fall forward, because that means they're not really going to be flipping. So, and then it's all really snowballed from there. You know, are you feeling like the post flight is a big separator for the kids?
Well, I think so, because everything, kind of like you said, it snowballs. If they're getting the height, if they're getting the rotation before they land, everything else has kind of gone well, because you know we have up to 5/10 to take in height, and that's a lot. So if they're getting the height, they're creating that rotation, then the rest of the vault was pretty good. If they're a little bit low, or they're going forward into that, all this other stuff happened before on the table that created that issue. So then there's all those deductions that we can take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you can't do a loose vault. You can't do a slow vault. You can't, make contact with the table with bent arms or a shoulder angle and then expect that nice height and distance and that over rotation to happen. And those are all deductions too that we're looking for on the table. There is the manufactured landing, which, we are, it's not just over rotating, because we do see that sometimes too. Maybe the vault was lacking rotation and power, and then they kind of jump back to show over rotation. But we see that, we know. But yes, typically it's just that snowball effect to make that natural over rotation happen. And then we've got form in general. That's never going to go anywhere. It still does have to be, straight legs, pointed toes, and then dynamics, right? You get that question all the time.
Yes. Dynamics.
How do you explain that?
Kind of the overall almost impression of the vault, and did the vault look easy? Did they make it look difficult? It kind of it ties into the block and the height with that. But like I said, overall, did that vault look simple? Was it hard? Were they struggling? So when we see if they are, we're taking that little bit extra in dynamics. And when they're not, when they're in and off really quickly, getting the rotation, getting the height, all of that, that's when we're not taking the dynamics, because it moved. It was just in itself, it was dynamic. They weren't lacking in any of those other areas. So that's like one of those deductions that is a separator from, the okay to the good to the great. Because that's up to 3/10 overall that we can take in dynamics on vault.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a big difference. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to get back to judging these vaults. Hopefully that happens soon.
I hope so.
All right. Well, it's nice chatting vault with you.
Hey, you too. That was great. I hope it can help, people understand a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely. And if they don't, they can ask us, right?
Absolutely. Find us at My Gym Judge.
All right. I'll see you later.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.